classic Hugo. But he's
horrible.
yeah.
He's a great character in there, but not always for the right reasons, I think.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Love or Lie Island. I am joined by the fabulous Judi James, where we're going to be taking a look at this year's Islanders and decide if they're telling us one thing, but their body language is telling us something else. After a quiet few weeks, Judi, this week has just been chaos. From Hugo's speech to Casa and Moore, I don't even know where to start. Really, what have you taken from the action this week?
I think as a life lesson, it's so depressing that what we learn every series is that all men are rats and can't be trusted, and women are not like that. And I would almost like, and this is probably a little bit heavy, but as a scientific experiment, that if next time the women are the alphas, so they bring a load of really, strong women that are working out every day, a load of athletes or something like that, and then some slightly less alpha men that are not having to prove themselves by going around and punching one another and this kind of physicality.
Mm.
Will we then see a complete reversal of traits and behaviours? Because it's the men living up to this macho image, isn't it? That they can only be in the boys' club.
Mm.
And the other thing, and I'll get off my soapbox in a minute, Adam. The other
No,
thing,
stay.
the other thing is these men, the narcissism that they go into Casa Amor, seeing these women a bit like sex robots that have been sent in, not as human beings, but just there to test them, as though it kind of dehumanizes the women that are in there. But I think, on the other hand, the girls actually do see that these are a group of guys and we can talk to them. They're actually human beings. So, yeah, it's that weird, as though these are beautiful creatures that have just been created in a laboratory to come in and test me. It might be they don't even want you when they get in there. I mean,
No,
and
imagine.
nobody's realised yet that the only reason they probably are after them in such a rabid way is because it means they'll get on television by going into the main villa. It's a sort of career move, but that doesn't cross their mind. I'm off my soapbox now, Adam.
Okay, well, welcome back to the room, Judi. We're going to take a look at firstly at Jake because while he is the only person who hasn't necessarily connected with one of the girls in Casa Amor, he's not exactly been an innocent party this week, I don't think. Let's take a look.
I see Lily is you're like, what?
I'm just very sexually attracted to her.
And this is the difference when you go back to people where it's first attraction, fit, get to know them, nah, but you haven't spoke to her yet.
Oh.
So I think you need a one-on-one chat with Lily first.
I do, yeah.
I think first of all, out of all the girls, Lily, boom.
Did you kiss him?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Lads holiday, lads holiday, you fucker.
He's not even subtly being the kind of Shakespearean villain in this and kind of pulling the strings. Looking at his body language there, have you seen a big shift in Jake this week in the way that he's kind of presented himself to the boys in Casa Amor and the way he's been in the villa?
Yeah, I mean, I think his status has gone through a kind of evolutionary process. I mean, he's managed against the odds really to position himself as the alpha in there, the wise man, and the fact that he's actually coupled up as well. It's given him almost a parental status in there. He can sit back. He knows that he's wanted. I mean, nobody's noticed that nobody wanted him in Casa Amor anyway, I think.
No.
But he seems to be the one that they go to for advice, and not only that, for a kind of acceptance. He's the keeper of the guy rules. This is how you behave to be a proper guy, how to do the right thing. And you're absolutely right. It's become quite Shakespearean that it's almost a dripping of poison in their ears. Now, I would hate to sort of suggest that he's doing this to make sure that he wins, but I'm going to, because he's picking on the people that probably were in with a very good chance of winning, like Leah, and persuading them to behave in a way that is going to make them deeply unpopular. The body language was a masterclass, really. If you saw him waving that water bottle, Now, these have a strong psychological significance for them all. When they're under tension, they all start sucking them like babies sucking a feeding bottle. When they're flirting, they do the same. They use them at a slightly different angle. But he was using his as a kind of weapon. You must do this. So, in a way, it was almost like somebody that the parent that got the feeding bottle, that if you don't do what I tell you, you ain't going to get that love. You're not going to get that feed. And I know that sounds a little bit on the heavy side, but as well as that, we were getting precision gestures from him to show that he was right. His hand gestures very precise. He was using emphatic gestures, and then he does this thing about reward gestures as well. When Liam agrees to go off and try and chat up Lily, he gets this huge pat, pat, pat from Jake, even including the last pat was on the bum. It was like, well done, my boy, kind of thing. So, in a way, they're doing it to get rewarded with acceptance from Jake, as this almost paternal figure in there.
And it's interesting, do you think I think it is quite visible, like a shift in Jake when we see him around the girls and when we see him around the boys. Like, more than anyone else in that villa, I think you can,
Yeah.
even if you muted it, I think you would see a really different person.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
I mean, Jake doesn't really have any power amongst the girls, I mean, he's just one of their girlfriends. Um, they didn't really see him as a huge prize at any stage. Um, Most of them had rejected him at some point or another, albeit subtly. And so his magic only really works when you see him in the all male group, and then he becomes very dominant. We've seen him try and flirt with the new girls when they've come in and got knocked back quite quickly. So I think he's not unpopular back in the villa, but I think they see him as a lot less significant than the boys see him as. And if you see them in their groupings when they're on the beds and having these big discussions, it tends to be his approval that they're seeking. But I think for the girls, he's just somebody's boyfriend. They're not that bothered, I don't think.
It'll be interesting to see how he behaves when he's back in the villa with Liberty. I do think his behaviour is going to come back and sting him, actually, at some point.
Well, he's unfortunately for the viewers as well. They're going to see him going back in. I know he's probably going to go back in. I'm the best guy in here because I didn't do anything, but we all know that he didn't join in. He wasn't, and I hate that word, tested. But nobody tried it on with him for him to have had any alternative really, and to go back in and sell that as look how wonderfully behaved I was. I think he may have forgotten that the viewers are not stupid; they're very cute, and he's not the kind of Jack Fincham of this one at all. I'm not. Listen, the guy's probably fine, but I think he may be overplaying his hand a little bit and forgetting that the viewers have got their eye on him.
And we decide who wins the prize ultimately. And think
absolutely.
One person who has definitely fallen under the Jake spell this week is Liam. And we've seen a huge shift in Liam this week. Let's take a look at just one of his interactions with new bombshell Lily.
How did you feel when I snogged you?
Buzzing.
Was it?
Yeah. Do you want to do it again?
I want to,
Yeah.
but
Knew there's a book coming.
I do want to, that's the thing.
That's okay.
Now, there's kind of an uncertainty there, but he's the one who's firmly put himself in that position. Just looking at that kind of interaction, what do you kind of get from Liam and his place in this?
I'm interested in Liam. I mean, I think what's misleading about Liam is that he looks like a 34-year-old father of two. So I think we're probably, youth is no excuse.
He's 21, isn't he? He's 21.
He's 21. And he does look like one of the older guys in there. So I think people are expecting a much more mature approach. The other thing that I'm wondering about him, I don't know whether he's also not being quite cute about how he's behaving. And we'll find out over the next couple of days. it's almost as though he seems to have a belief that the way that he might win this is that he'll take the brinkmanship quite close to the wire, the kissing, and then come out and we'll see him. No, actually, I didn't want her after all. I wanted you, and everybody will applaud that. They'll be feeling he was well tested. He kissed her. He was in bed with her. He voluntarily kissed her outside the exercise as well. But look, he's come back familiar. I think he may be planning, almost as cute as Jake, that that's going to be a good way to prove his loyalty. I think he's probably too young to realise that for most women that would not be remotely seen as loyal in any way, shape or form. But there may be a brinkmanship going on there. But what he was sending out in his signals here, in a way we saw her pressurising him for a second kiss and him, almost sort of blushing prettily. But he was sending out very mixed signals. So he kept the eye contact. He kept grinning with that kind of keep persuading me smile. He said that he wanted to, and in fact, verbally, he twice went and almost picked her up, like as in, please carry on with this dialogue. But then he did this sort of fake coyness with the cut-off rituals with the hands, as though, oh, you mustn't. So I don't know whether he's playing us as well, Adam, to be honest. I've got a feeling he's doing this, oh, shall I be tempted, shall I not? And then just take it so far and then come back like this fabulous guy. No, I pushed her away eventually. But there again, he might even now be doing the dirty deed with her. I don't know, but I've got a feeling that's where he's going on this one.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think there's very much like, oh no, please don't, but like kind of jumping straight into it.
It's a bit like, somebody that's on a diet, when their friends go and have a bit of cake, you're going, no, I mustn't. And what you're saying with your body language is, please keep pushing it because I'm starving. I want that bit of cake.
5
You're
minutes
going to
later,
have
the
that bit of
cake's
cake.
gone.
Is Liam going to have that bit of cake? That's the question. I think at the moment he's probably eating the cherries and tasting some of the chocolate on it, but will he go for the whole cake? We'll wait and see. I think not.
It's funny because it's almost like they've already crossed the line, but he's not even aware that the line's gone now, isn't it? It's kind of you've kind of done it now. So,
but it is this narcissistic attitude that the whole plot is about them, and everybody's waiting to see, and that if they do that, they can still come back on a bit of elastic and prove that they're. I mean, I think they know that people like Toby are beyond redemption. I mean, just let him out there drooling, but they probably feel a bit superior because they're not behaving. Like, it'd be really funny now if at the end of all of this, Toby, who's never really pretended to be anything else, wins the competition just for being who he is, being Toby.
All right, well, we'll see. Well, another couple who've had a really interesting week actually is Faye and Teddy, and a lot of viewers are quite understandably quite upset with, I think, how Teddy's been thrown under the bus. Let's look at Faye's week without Teddy.
Teddy might not be funny.
What?
Oh my god, I didn't see that coming.
What? Do I sit there and belly laugh with him? No, but does he bring out a softer side of me? Yes, so what's more important? Do you know what? I've laughed more with you guys than I have with the other group of lads, which actually says a lot. Yeah.
I think we're gentlemen.
So, it was almost like, I think, let's start with the first clip, that Faye knew that postcard was coming, and to me it was like, I need to let everyone know that I've got my doubts about it. Was that all just kind of that classic Faye putting her walls up that we've seen every week?
I mean, this is classic Freud self-defense, ego defense mechanisms kicking in. I think she, of all of the girls in there, is about 10 jumps ahead in a negative way. I think she's always got the expectation of being jilted, him going in there and finding somebody else, etc. I think the others are slightly more optimistic, but I think Faye's probably had a slightly perhaps not some good breaks in life. She's probably had a heart broken a little bit, so she's got that expectation. I think what she's probably built in is that the ego defense mechanism kicks in, and so she'll be the one that will sort of already start breaking things down herself by saying that, well, I don't find him very funny anyway, so that it's not a big deal. I don't think she's convincing herself about that at all, but I think she's trying very much to convince us and the rest of them that, so what if he comes back? And this is classic Faye, isn't it? Yeah, whatever. And we know he does come across as a really nice guy, actually, I have to say.
Yeah.
And and this is probably the biggest drama, isn't it? That we, the viewer, know that so far he's been fine, but she's being led to believe that he's not. And again, it's classic Shakespearean plots come to, the Casa Amor. It's going to be a real pity, but no, I think that this is very much her trying to, and she's not even being genuine, I don't think, with this one, because she then sort of, oh well, I might as well cop off with Sam. And Sam, bless him, who we haven't heard from very much, but she decides to tell him and inform him rather than show us that he has that banter, that sense of humour that she doesn't get from Teddy. What she does when she's trying to persuade herself and us about that, if you notice, she didn't let him get a word in edgeways, because I don't think he's that funny. But all she was doing was telling him, you're funny, ha, ha, ha. We haven't heard that. We haven't seen it from him. If he was funny, she would have shut up and let him speak. So it's almost like she's trying to pretend that he's her perfect man and is going to fill all those gaps that she's not getting with Teddy. I'm sorry, Faye, you're really not fooling anybody, really. Maybe yourself a little bit, but not much.
And she definitely kept quite a distance between her and Sam as well, I think, and she kept kind of almost like kind of turning away.
Yeah. And she wasn't flirting, Adam. I mean,
No.
she was immediately very, very sweary, quite aggressive about Teddy. I mean, there was none of those flirt signals that we get from the girls when they're really. I think she just wanted to vent, quite honestly, and maybe have somebody else that she could pretend that I've got a choice. I have got somebody here. But as I say, maybe if she lets him speak, she'll find out otherwise. But no, that was her using him a little bit as a pawn or pawn.
And talking to the girls as well, do you think she was, especially in her body language, kind of more like looking for some sort of assurance, maybe?
Yeah, I think she knows that they know her, and she's been advertising her soft side. I mean, she was very interesting from the word go. She put up this kind of hard, couldn't care less shell, but she did keep telling everybody verbally that she's really soft inside. So she is clearly very keen to almost show that, but also protect it. I think she wants to show it because she says, oh, people keep saying that that's the side I've got to show if I'm ever going to fall in love. That makes me vulnerable, which is absolutely true. So she's got the narrative there, but I think, with the other girls, I think she wants to be a bit of a Jake in a way and proves that she's still kind of pack leader and knows better than the other girls. But she also knows that they're watching a potential meltdown taking place. I don't want to see any of those girls get in tears, actually. I think in previous ones, it's usually been the one that has normally had the biggest face loss after Casa Amor is one that's maybe been very arrogant on the build-up, and it's not been quite such a painful. It's still painful to watch, but all of them in there, they've all had their bumps and knocks, haven't they? And there's nobody that I will have any pleasure or glee about watching dissolve into tears. I mean, Kaz in particular, watching her cry was horrible.
Oh, I think that was one of the most kind of genuine heartbreaks I think I've ever seen on Love Island, especially from a Casa Amor twist.
Well, and
You could
also,
tell, especially what Kaz has gone through, isn't it?
yeah,
It
well,
was
that's
just a
it. You're right. It's been a build-up, hasn't it? From day one in there, she couldn't get anybody. Nobody was in, and then finally. So she's sitting on a whole barrel load of emotion there, and whatever happens now, I think it's beginning. She's been very brave, but no, I think that was about more than just him. And of course, we're not seeing the best side of him either. I mean, he did sit there, didn't he, with her when he first came in. Oh, I'm the one you can trust. I think anybody that says I'm the one that you can trust should immediately just be scroll to the other side. Why would you need to say that? It's the rule should be show, don't tell. Don't show me that you're trustworthy. Don't tell me.
Yeah, no, it's felt very unfair, I think, to a lot of the girls this week. And finally, we're going to talk about Hugo. It's very much been Hugo's week this week, kind of out of nowhere. But from Toby's speech to the guy we have in Casa Amor right now, it's been a huge transformation. But it all kind of came to a point last night when he finally got a snog with Amy. Let's take a look at that moment.
Why are you pinky promising, babe? Job done. Right, come on in.
Job done? Jesus, what is this?
Yeah, I'm just going to take a minute. Now I'm on Love Island. I made it.
Classic Hugo. But he's
horrible.
But he's kind of gone from this kind of wallflower character almost to whatever that was, and just it's borderline cocky, isn't it now, rather than the kind of reserved character we had before, to skipping confidence to cocky.
Arrogance.
I think
Arrogance. He's coming across as very arrogant, and it's almost like I've got to get the job done. And again, that for me dehumanises the girl to a certain extent. He clearly thought that he'd got a lot of options in there, a lot of choices, that a lot of them would have been sent in for Hugo. He did what he normally does, is that when they were lying on the bed together, he was just facing front and only turns to her when she tells him that she really likes him. So it's obviously, carry on with the flattery. And then almost from nowhere, he just gets up and snogs her. And then the minute he finishes, it sort of jumps off like, oh, well, that's another thing off my list. He does take this kind of teachery tone as well. Oh, well, that's done that. That's I'm in there. I'm in the game. I don't know. I find it, as you say, it's too much of a leap from the man that we were probably feeling a bit sorry for. And all right, nobody wants sympathy under those circumstances. But suddenly, this man that thinks that he's got the pick, who can just kiss a girl and then leap away from her because that's all she was there for in his mind, was for him to join Love Island. Oh, right, I've kissed a girl, so I'm now in Love Island. No apparent awareness of her feelings, or that she might have wanted a second kiss. Probably she didn't. And then rushing back to boast to the other guys. And I love the way that he kind of went back and boasted to the ones that would be very much the sort of celebrating acceptance thing going on. So I think really he just feels now that he's in the boys' club rather than he might have kicked off a relationship. But it's just his voice. He went from this slight whisper thing with her until he kissed her, and then he goes back into the villa. Oh, well, that's me. I've done that. He goes that shouty, I've finished my homework mode. Or it's just, he's a great character in there, but not always for the right reasons, I think.
And just looking at Amy, how do you think she took that classic Hugo one-liner, and do you think she was actually into the kiss?
I would say, and there's been a lot of this in this series, people that have gone in a bit pre-briefed, particularly the ones about you're going to be the one that Hugo cops off with. And I think that she gave him all the kind of little script about, oh, I fancied you, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure. But again, you can be horrible. And I certainly, given the time span they've got to sort of chat and get together, there is a feeling, obviously, that they're doing it. He would be the easy one to get into the villa, wouldn't he? With the others, you've got to prize them away from somebody. Hugo might need to understand that in a way he was the easiest meal ticket. And I'm not saying that's all she was doing, but I couldn't see any huge genuine signs of attraction there. And I think if she does, and she probably will be going in with him, it'll be interesting to see if she also peels away quite quickly. I'd be interesting anyway. But no, I'm not seeing that as a great love match, I'm afraid.
What would you kind of in that scenario coming from it expect to see if maybe there was more of a chemistry, do you think?
Something more mutual, because I don't think any girl in the real world wants to go in a bit as a rescuer. You know, the idea that I've been watching this, I've seen that Hugo hasn't got anybody. I have been fancying him for several weeks now, watching him in there, and I think that he would be ideal for me. Also, and don't forget, Adam, having watched girls get knocked back when they have tried to chat him up as well, he's been quite, you know, oh, you've got cat, oh, I don't want to, you know, they've seen that side of him as well. And the fact that she would just go and sit there and do that speech to him that, you know, well, it was you and I like you. It seems very contrived to me. I'd be expecting to see him engaging in a more mutual conversation with some mirrored body language. We haven't seen any mirroring from him at all. It's always been the girls making the effort and finding out about one another without that kind of questionnaire like you've applied for a job, you know, so have you got any animals and what just really getting a proper conversation going. He must be starved of proper conversation in there as well, because he clearly is a little bit above the kind of conversations he's having at the moment intellectually. So you think that he'd want to get somebody in there who he had a meeting of minds and then some attraction. But it's this speed dating thing. I'm not seeing anything genuine that's working there between them at all.
Wow. I mean, one thing we do know is this time next week there's going to be loads new couples. It's all going to be completely different when everyone's back in that villa. We don't know who's still going to be in the villa. We don't know who's going to be together.
There's people in the villa, Adam, that I don't even know they're in there. I was watching a scene today and a blonde woman walked past and I thought, is that a member of crew that's got in there? And I thought, oh no, I think that was one of the Castor and Moore girls that's been, yeah. So I'm losing track. I'm going to need to sit there with pen and paper writing names down.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one. But join us next week anyway, when we're going to be talking about all the events coming up over the next 7 days in the next episode of Love or Lie Island. Thank you, Judi.
Thank you.